Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Evan Brand, functional medicine practitioner and nutritional therapist, talking with you today about something that I've dealt with a lot. If you've listened to my podcast, you would know that depression is what led me to jump into this whole health space anyway. I was a college kid that was finding it increasingly hard to wake up and get to school. And I was working third shift to pay for college, and I found myself just losing energy and just losing interest in the world. And I found out, this sounds a lot like depression. And there were a lot of underlying causes and things that we're going to talk about that were affecting me that could be affecting you as well. But I see this in my clients all the time. This time of the year, you may be watching this in the future, but November is when this is being recorded. In the Northern Hemisphere, a lot of us are getting into our seasonal depression. So I may touch on SAD, seasonal affective disorder, just a little bit. So where do we start? There's a lot of text on here to save me time. So over here, we're talking mainly about the melancholic form of depression. Now you have unipolar depression and then you have bipolar depression. So a lot of people joke about bipolar disorder and think that it's funny for some reason. Yeah, I'm bipolar. It's not really a joking matter, but we're typically talking about the unipolar type of depression, one being melancholic. Now, there's other types of unipolar depression, but we're not covering that today just because my board is only so big. Okay. So typically, this is about 4 to 12 months lasting for most people. So they're going to have dysphoria associated with this. All that is just a fancy word that means that you just can't really enjoy. It's sort of the opposite of euphoria. You can't really enjoy much. You don't really get too excited about anything. You have the inability to experience pleasure, and the world doesn't matter. So you see all of this stuff going on around you, and for me, I felt like I wasn't even part of the world anymore. I just felt like nothing really mattered. So this is 40 to 60% of all of the cases of depression. It's this type of depression, this category of depression that we're talking about. Now, if you don't know this already, depression is the number one cause of disability in the United States. This is huge. So symptoms, I could have put 1,000 on here. So let's just go over some of them. Disturbed sleep. So this is going to look like insomnia or hypersomnia. So the type of people that they lay down and they're wired and tired. So they can't go to sleep. Their mind is racing or they just can't shut down. I see that a lot with my clients. Disturbed sleep is probably number one, really. Low appetite or overeating. Typically, I'm going to find low appetite combined with low energy, so the metabolism is slowing down. Depression can have physical symptoms too. It's not just in your head. So typically when you're in a depressed state, you could also have things that I've had, cold hands, cold feet. The thyroid function can slow down, so you can start to gain weight or lose weight, just depending on what your body's going to do. So you may just not, food doesn't taste good. You have a neurotransmitter imbalance. So the world doesn't seem as colorful as it should, and food just doesn't taste as good. So loss of energy, this is really common, tied in with lethargy. These two always come together. It just takes a lot of effort to do anything. Getting out of bed is hard. I've heard of people where they have to have their boyfriend or their spouse deliver coffee to them in the bed. It's like, whoa, that's extreme lethargy. Probably adrenal fatigue, but check out the other video, link below for that. Low sex drive. So you just have no interest in sex. You feel like your partner is becoming more of your business associate than your actual sexual partner or your lover. That's pretty common too. I struggle with it, so I know. Difficulty concentrating. This is huge. Difficulty concentrating and indecisiveness, these two go together as well. You feel so overwhelmed by everything in life, but you can't make a decision to do anything about it. Talk about a crappy place to be mentally. Difficulty concentrating, so that could be if you're a student, that could be if you're at work and you're just staring at the screen. You just feel like crap. You're just kind of sitting here on the computer. God, I can't focus. Difficulty concentrating is huge. Okay, guilt. Now this is a weird one, but I've experienced it and I've heard other clients that are dealing with depression suffer from guilt. So it could be something 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago and you're just holding on to that. So there's a little bit of emotional trauma that's kind of built into this whole depressive picture. Pessimistic thoughts, very common, just always looking at the glass half empty. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff that we should be concerned or upset about in the world, whether it's environmental things, whether it's economic things. I completely understand and I'm with you, but we can't let all of that stuff coming in at us control our moods. You just have to look at things and be able to reframe them and be able to work through those emotions without getting overwhelmed and being so pessimistic. I promise you don't get anywhere that way. It's a lot easier to be optimistic sometimes once you realize what the negative stuff does to you. Now, I've done a podcast on this if you want to kind of geek out a little bit more on pessimism versus optimism. Now, our brains, just the way we are wired as hunter-gatherers, negative thoughts stick on us like Teflon because we want to remember, ooh, that fire really burns, or ooh, that tiger, when he bit me, that really hurt, so I don't ever want to get bit again. So our brain is wired to remember negative thoughts, and happy thoughts just sort of bounce off like a non-stick pan. And that's very common. So good thoughts, good things, they may not benefit you that much in terms of survival. Now, things like, oh, that patch of berries grew over there in the woods, that's a positive thought that you may remember, but typically negative thoughts are always going to have a lot more value in terms of your memory storing those because it's going to help you survive. The negative news doesn't help you survive, by the way. Okay. Can't concentrate. Why did I type that twice? Why did I write that twice? Maybe I'm having a depressive symptom right now. Who knows? All right. So let's go. Let me get this out of your way because I know this gets a little distracting. There's the symptoms. You see them. You may have them. All right. You got that in mind. Let me get rid of this here. Now let's move on and let's talk about the pathway here, this serotonin pathway. So some of the ideas behind depression you may have heard is, oh, it's all in the serotonin, right? It's low serotonin. So I'm going to take an SSRI, a prescribed drug that's going to boost those levels back up. But that's actually not very effective. And there's actually studies now that are showing that placebo pills, sugar pills, are actually almost as effective or just as effective as the SSRI. That's because if you have low serotonin to begin with, and you add in the SSRI, all that's doing is it's making that serotonin molecule sit in that synapse, that receptor, a little bit longer. It's not actually increasing levels of serotonin. If we want to do that, we have to learn about this serotonin pathway, and then we can boost up those serotonin levels. So, dietary tryptophan. This is sort of the beginning. So we got Thanksgiving coming up, so we'll use that as an example. People getting dietary tryptophan, you're getting the turkey, right? Oh, you're so sleepy on Thanksgiving. I promise it's not caused by this. It's being around family and friends and relaxing and things like that. This is not going to have that much of an effect on your sleep or anything like that. But it does matter. All right, so then you have some of these cofactors here. You have magnesium, O2 here, and then that converts over to 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP. I know you've heard of 5-HTP. Maybe you've even experimented with supplementing it, and you could have had mixed results. You could have felt good, or you could have felt like you were losing your mind. It just sort of depends on what your brain chemicals are doing when you take that. Very common deficiency here is vitamin B6. So to take 5-HTP and convert that over to active serotonin, you have to have vitamin B6. That's a cofactor. B vitamins are depleted during stress. So it's common that very stressed out people can start stressed and sort of high. Yes, I'm high on these endorphins and I'm high on this cortisol, and eventually they become depleted. They also get depressed. Well, they've depleted this B6 here during times of stress. Now they can't convert this dietary tryptophan over to active serotonin. It's a big problem. Next, serotonin converts over to melatonin. So the reason that a lot of people, maybe even you, are depressed and you can't sleep, which doesn't make sense, right? You feel like you should just be able to crawl under a blanket and just disappear from the world for a month, right? But you can't. You just can't sleep. Well, a lot of times you're going to be deficient in these cofactors as well. Vitamin C, also depleted during times of stress. Vitamin C is stored in the adrenal gland, so if you're undergoing a lot of different physical, emotional, chemical stressors, you're going to be depleting this vitamin C. You're not going to be able to convert that serotonin over to melatonin. Copper, This is a big one too. Now, a lot of people have copper toxicity. They have too much copper from IUDs, women, the implantable birth control, or they're getting exposed to copper in pipes or copper in eating too many nuts and dark chocolate. So copper's not too much of a problem. And then SAMe, we'll save SAMe for a whole nother topic of discussion. You can actually use SAMe to fuel a different cycle that helps you feel a little bit better and get some of this excess noradrenaline that's stored in your body with depression. But that's kind of complex for right now, and I don't have that much time to do that. That's a whole 20-minute digression. So if you're deficient in all of these things, it's going to cause a lack of melatonin, so now you're not going to be able to sleep. Okay, now we got that out of the way. Get my eraser. Let's clear this out of the way. Let's talk about some options. What do we do? All right. So light therapy is going to be number one. You want to get 10,000 lux or more. And now there's an app that you can get called Lux Meter on your phone. I have Android, it's on there. iPhone users don't know. Check it out. Lux Meter, it's an app that uses your proximity sensor and it detects the brightness of light. You want to be exposed to 10,000 lux or more. How do you get that? You go outside. If you can't do that, then you get a light box. And you want to use this in the morning. Anywhere from about 10 to 15 minutes. I wrote pretty big. I'm going to run out of room. Number two, inflammation needs to go down. Inflammation is a huge part of depression because if you have inflammation, especially in the gut, over 90% of your serotonin is actually produced in the gut anyway. So if you have some gut inflammation because you're eating foods that you're allergic to, wheat, pastas, glutens, all of these different food things that people think, well, I don't have celiac disease, right? So it's fine, I'm going to eat gluten. Well, you don't have to have celiac disease to have gluten sensitivity that can still cause subclinical inflammation in the gut, which then depletes neurotransmitters and reduces the production of serotonin. It just throws everything off. Kills off some of the good gut flora. You get a leaky gut where your intestinal permeability, the spacing between your gut lining is increased, and now these toxins can get in to where they're not supposed to, causing even more symptoms. So reducing inflammation is a huge, huge, huge thing. Now, how do you do that? Well, my favorite way is after the diet. We talked about the diet a little bit. If you are a member or a client of mine, you'll get access to the Not Just Paleo Eating Plan. It's something that I outline, not just what to eat, but why and how to eat. I know it sounds silly, but a lot of people don't know how to eat. They're not chewing properly, they're skipping meals, things like that. So if that's an incentive for you to become a client of mine, awesome. That's a good starting point for you. Now, omega-3s, these are going to be really helpful. So whether this is fish oil, whether this is krill oil, don't just go to Walmart or some random store and buy omega-3s. A lot of the times they're rancid before they even get there because they don't have any natural antioxidant to protect them. So here's what you do. Do the sniff test. Open up the bottle. Oh my God, it reeks like fish. Well, probably rancid. It's not supposed to smell that fishy. So get your omega-3s in. Now, I personally like krill oil. I like krill oil because it really helps to reduce CRP levels, so C-reactive protein. I use the HS-CRP on a blood panel to see how inflamed a client is, and I've seen massive reductions in HS-CRP, and there's actually studies to back this up where krill oil can cause a huge reduction in inflammation overall. So I use about 1 gram per day to start with, and then you can go up from there. There's a lot more therapeutic dosage of levels that I don't really want to talk about here, just because that gets more in like the medical advice category when you're talking about adding in lots and lots and lots of fatty acids. So want to stay away from that. Okay, omega-3s, reducing inflammation with the diet. The next thing is we want to make sure we're getting lots of antioxidants and veggies. So there was actually a study that showed that up to 7 servings of vegetables per day was the cutoff limit for happiness. So they ended up going up to like 9 servings of vegetables and they didn't notice anything. But from 0 servings of vegetables per day, which most Americans get like 0 vegetables per day because ketchup and potato chips and French fries don't count as vegetables, most people don't get any, or they don't get far less than they should. So up to 7 servings per day of vegetables. We're talking good steamed broccoli, spinach, kale, leafy green vegetables, some peas. We could talk about berries, so some wild blueberries, things that have stress under them. Maybe you're going to do some purple corn, purple potatoes, something like that. Getting in your antioxidants and veggies, it's a proven way to help boost your happiness up. All right, so light therapy, inflammation. Number 3, exercise. Now look, I know when you're depressed, you feel like crap, you don't want to exercise, you just want to be lazy and watch Netflix or something. I understand. I was there. It's a hard place to get out of. But exercise is a bit like a snowball. Once you start doing it, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to get the ball rolling. You're going to start producing some endorphins, these natural pain-killing compounds and opioids that are going to take some of the physical pain away. I've heard of clients that have joint issues, maybe even some arthritic-like symptoms that have gone away after beginning an exercise routine. Obviously adding in the anti-inflammatory stuff too, because you're going to be boosting up all of these different brain chemicals that you're deficient in. So exercise is huge. And then plus, if you're going to do it outdoors, going out in the forest, something like that, it's another proven way to help balance out your brain chemicals. So you're going to feel better that way as well. So how do you start? I just say 10, 15 minutes. Now, for depressed people, depending on whether they have adrenal issues or not, I may just say walking to start with. But if I can verify that their adrenals are in somewhat decent shape by running a salivary cortisol test on them and I've seen that they're okay, then that's when I'm going to add in something like weightlifting. So big fan of free weights or just body weight. So push-ups. And now I could write a bunch of other stuff, but push-ups is a good one to start with. If you're a female and you need to start on your knees and do push-ups, that's fine. If you're a man and you want to start putting your feet out and doing push-ups, do it slow. Don't rush through. So make sure it's 3 seconds. I got this tip from one of Dr. Mercola's friends. He was like, you need to slow down when you do your push-ups. So a lot slower push-up, giving yourself the full range of motion, touching your nose down to the ground and then coming back up. A long push-up like that compared to just, oh yeah, 100. No, it doesn't count, all right? So make it long, and that's going to really help to give the full contraction of the muscles there. It's going to help work your triceps, your deltoids, your chest, your traps, everything. I mean, it's amazing what all you can feel just by doing some push-ups. Other things you can do, they're not that fun, I admit, but body squats, you can do those. You can take a chair and you can do some dips where you're basically putting your hands behind you on the chair and you're just sort of dipping down. It's kind of hard to demonstrate without a chair, but you know what I'm talking about. You can grab a kettlebell, and you can also say you could even lean on your couch and you could grab a kettlebell here and you could do some dumbbell rows or some kettlebell rows. Start working out some of the biceps, start working out some of your lat muscles. So that's just some ideas to get you going, get you motivated here. But exercise is going to be huge for depression. And once you get the ball rolling, you're going to just excel. And once you start noticing results, you combine these other strategies, you're going to start feeling better. So there is hope. Don't give up. You know, suicide is a piece, or thoughts of death is another symptom that was not on that first board that we were going over together. So if you are feeling down in the dumps, know that there are options for you. And I've been there, I've done that, I've pulled myself out. I've pulled dozens of people out of depression using natural strategies and functional medicine. So reach out, click below, or you can click on screen here. I started to lose my lip. Click below, or you can click on screen schedule a free consult with me and I will talk with you at no charge over the phone or over Skype if you are outside of the United States. And we'll talk about some of your options and determine if and how I can help you get better. All right, this is Evan Brand. Take care. Bye.